Mission Number 1. England, February 26, 1945. Target, Berlin. It was Monday morning, after 2 weeks of advanced training here in Chalveston in the Midlands, England, that I was woke up by the CQ and he told me I'd be flying my first mission. Rise and shine, Howard. You're flying tail for Big John, who is John Armstrong, our cruise pilot. Gas load, 2,780 and carrying 500-pounders. 2,780 gallons of fuel, the maximum load, which meant a long mission somewhere deep into Germany, and also a major city. Boy, did that scare me. All I could think about was that one's first mission should be a milk run. Really, that scared me. And besides, 1 a.m. is a hell of a time to fight a war. I realized that our plane would be heavily overloaded, and remembering the 2 B-17s that crashed on takeoff on the first morning did not instill a lot of confidence in me. I looked around the Quonset hut and saw several scared faces, so I didn't feel so cowardly anymore. I went with the rest of the crew to the mess hall at 2:30 for breakfast. The food at the base up until now had been awful, so I was rather surprised to find that the cooks had served us bacon and real fried eggs, toast, etc. And believe it or not, real butter. We then walked to the briefing room, which was scheduled to be held at 4:30 in the morning. Roll call was held, and all men scheduled to fly this mission, plus a couple of spare crews, were seated, and few, if any, were talking. A huge map on the wall in front of us was covered with a blanket. I think everyone was trying for X-ray vision, as we wanted to find out where we were going. My X-ray eyes didn't work all that well, so I just sweated in spite of the cold weather. The pilots, navigators, and bombardiers each had separate briefings. As the group CO entered the room, someone called attention and we all stood until he put us at ease. When he took the blanket off the map, we saw the red string marking the route. It started at the base, ran down the Wash, the coast of England, across the Channel, to Holland, into Germany, and then made a beeline right to Berlin. Wow! For sure this was not a milk run. We were told to expect a lot of flak and fighter attacks. We also learned the expected weather conditions, etc., including the type of escort and where they would meet us. After briefing, I went to communion, and then to the equipment room to get my parachute and other flying gear. Because I had gone to communion, I was separated from the rest of the crew and was all alone in the equipment room. I found the numbered flying suit hanging, but there was an old brown wool suit and also a neat green silk heated suit. I assumed I was to wear both outfits, so I put on the green silk and over it the old brown job. I looked and felt like a stuffed sausage. I could hardly move my arms or legs. Then I noticed 2 electric plugs dangling out of the suits. Which one to wear then? Well, I opted for the old brown wool suit, as I reasoned that if we lost power, I'd freeze to death in the flimsy silk job. The temperature at 25 or 30,000 feet got down to 50 or 60 degrees below zero. Life expectancy is not long without power to heat your suit. If you lose oxygen at that altitude, you're dead in a matter of seconds. I got on the truck with the other guys and was driven out to our assigned planes. The first thing I did was get my equipment stowed in the tail, checked the oxygen supply and regulator, installed the guns, chambered rounds, and hand-charged both guns. Checked the intercom and double-checked my heated suit. Stashed a pack of gum and hard candy nearby, and placed my parachute near the tail wheel. I could not wear my chute in the tail for lack of room, and the only way I could get out of the plane if I needed to was the escape hatch near the tail wheel. The tail position is very small. My shoulders touched both sides of the plane and only had very limited moving room. Tail gunners used a kneeling position, resting our rump on a very small bicycle seat. I practiced a backflip which landed me on my knees right at the tail wheel. I could snap buckle my chute to the parachute harness that I did wear in milliseconds. Pulling an emergency release handle would blow the escape door open and young Donald T would be out and gone. Engines warmed up, gas tanks topped off, and taxi to runway at 0730. Takeoff at 0800. I rolled the tail wheel for the takeoff, and of course made us tail heavy. We encountered a strong, unexpected crosswind on the takeoff, which forced the plane off the runway. I looked down and saw the dim runway lights going right between my legs, and all I could think of was those two planes that crashed on takeoff. This was not a good start. Armstrong once again proved his ability in getting us off the ground, but he used every inch of runway, and we only cleared buildings by inches. Once in the air, Armstrong headed for the assembly point, but we were either late or lost, and we never found the group. Armstrong chose to join another group as Tail and Charlie. The problem with this is that being the last plane in the group for a number of reasons consumes more fuel than the other planes. Once again, not good. We had 10 out of 10 cloud cover all the way to the target, and lots of fighter protection. P-51s. The whole 8th Air Force was going to the same target, and 305th and our plane were about in the middle of the bomber stream. B-17s and B-24s as far in back of us and as far in front of us as we could see. Over 3,000 planes, not counting the fighters escorting us. What a sight. We encountered a little flak and no fighter attacks. We dropped our bombs, 6 500-pounders, and 4 clusters of incendiaries right where they belonged. Over Berlin, Armstrong calculated that we did not have enough fuel to get back to England. He pulled away from the formation and started a slow descent on reduced power on a reverse heading to England. Armstrong advised the crew of our situation and offered what our options were. 1. Change headings and try to land someplace in Russian territory and be imprisoned or get shot as spies. 2. Land at a German airfield and surrender and be imprisoned or shot. 3. Ditch in the North Sea and hope for survival. Everyone voted for the North Sea ditching. We then started to lighten the ship by throwing out all but the bare minimum of ammunition, extra guns, etc. We sweated that fuel consumption all the way to the Zuyder Zee, where the clouds started to clear a little. Derby, our navigator, spotted a landmark that enabled him to determine our position and plotted a course to the nearest airfield in England. It was right on the coast. We landed with only quarts of fuel left. We ate dinner at the English base, which consisted of some kind of sausage that the English airmen swore was made from sawdust. After I tasted them, I no longer thought they were joking. The ground crew gave us enough gas to get back to the base, but we slept there that night in the plane. Armstrong called the base to inform them of our whereabouts, and the next morning we flew back to the base. We were on the mission for 8 hours and 30 minutes, and bombed at 25,000 feet. All in all, now that I'm safe back on the ground, let me say, it was a real milk run. Number 1 done, only 34 to go.